All right, everybody, it is the Bryan and Craig show here. It is March 6, 2022. Figure4online.com/wrestlingobserver.com. Yes, me, Vinny, Craig, all of our Twitch homies, I think. I don't know what's going on Twitch. Maybe I have to refresh it right here. Oh, there I am. And YouTube as well. Looks like we're live, pal. We're live, pal. Actually, Andrew Zarian's show talking about he did the watch along. Now we've watched it, and here we go. Am I out of focus? Anyway, hey, we got a lot to get into today. AEW Revolution, and I don't think we're going to do the Rampage report because we're going to have so much to talk about. But I will say that everybody who has not seen the opening match on Rampage, go watch it right now. That three-way was absolutely fucking incredible.
Yeah.
Absolutely incredible. The whole show was good, but the opener in particular, probably a cliche when we talk about these. I'm sure I'll get the usual paid by AEW shit, but it's one of the best three-ways you'll ever see. It was absolutely fantastic. Mm-hmm. So with that said, we now have to talk about a Revolution show, which was, for the most part, also an awesome show, including a match I gave 1,000,000 stars to. Not every day you have a match you give 1,000,000 stars to.
I'm going to assume that's Hook in the pre-show.
Oh, get out of here. That match was exactly like move for move what I would have expected it to be with QT Marshall. But no, Bryan Danielson and Jon Moxley was just the fucking best match in the history of humanity. God damn. And the Jericho match was awesome, and the three-way tag was awesome, and it was a great main event, and I don't know if I could say it was the best pay-per-view they've ever done, because they've had, like, lots of great pay-per-views, but this was fucking way up there, one way or the other.
They could have trimmed some time off of it. 5 hours is a long time to be watching wrestling, no matter how good it is.
If you watch the pre-show, it's 5 hours. The main show is 4 hours. I don't think it needed to be that long, which we'll get into, but I will say this. I woke up this morning more excited for a pay-per-view than I have been in years.
That's fair.
And years. And years. And I feel very, very, very satisfied with the pay-per-view that it delivered. It lived up to my expectations.
You know what? When you talk about the length of the show, though, it was, I mean, here's the thing. We actually watched the pre-show. Mm-hmm. Whereas, if this would have been a WWE pay-per-view, it would have been 4 hours and 45 minutes, right?
Sure.
3 hours and 45 minutes.
3 hours.
3 hours and 45 minutes. But that's because we never watched the pre-shows. But we watched this pre-show. So it's almost, it's kind of like, it's kind of weird because the show was long because they treat their pre-shows as if they're important.
Right.
And so you feel that you should watch it. In which case, you end up watching 4 hours and 45 minutes of wrestling. Whereas with the WWE, they treat their pre-shows like it's just bullshit and waste of your time. So you don't watch them, and then you only watch 3 hours and 45 minutes of wrestling.
The other thing is, there's actually wrestling on the pre-show with AEW. There's not just one match that goes 6.5 minutes. They had 3 matches on this pre-show.
And stars. I mean,
yeah, they were important matches.
Layla Hirsch and Chris Statlander. It wasn't just
bullshit.
No, Layla Hirsch and Chris Statlander have a program they paid off. Hook is Hook, for God's sake. And then House of Black and the Modified Death Triangle has been pushed really hard as an important program. So these are not skippable, random, why is this match happening matches. They all seemed important.
All right, well, let's get going on the show here. I should start off by saying, since I've had many people ask, as of a couple of minutes ago, the word I got was, with all of the crazy, violent, bloody, crazy, nutty matches on this show, the only person that appears to have suffered an injury is Orange Cassidy hurt his shoulder. And he's going to undergo an MRI, and hopefully he's all right. But other than that, apparently everybody is okay. So keep that in mind as we review the first spot in the opening match.
I'm assuming stitchers don't count as hurt.
No.
That's good.
Degrees of this kind of thing. So we watched AEW Revolution March 6th, 2022. It opened with Chris Jericho and Eddie Kingston. And we are 1 second into this match, and Kingston ducked a punch or something, hit a half-and-half suplex. It was the worst bump of Chris Jericho's career. Spiked him right on top of his head. I screamed. I think Jericho thought he was dead. He rolled outside and started walking around just to make sure all his body parts still worked. And he was alive, and so they just rolled with it. And they had a great match.
Fight. They had a fight.
That's what they had.
Thank you, Craig.
They had a fucking fight.
I stand corrected. They had a great fight.
You know what's funny about that first bump too is I guess he's all right, but it looked like he was dead.
Oh.
And the match was built around him getting killed on the first spot. Like the whole match was all about working over his neck and his head because the match opened with him being dropped on his head. But in doing that spot, he got fucking dropped on his head. And I can only presume that it looked worse than it actually was. It couldn't have been as worse as it looked because he'd be dead.
Yeah.
But he just fucking landed. And, you know, sometimes we mention a guy lands on his head, but this was like he landed on his neck. Like his head wasn't even attached. He just only landed on his neck. His head went crooked, and I mean, the ref checked on him. He rolled outside. I mean, maybe all of that was going to happen regardless because that was the story of the match. But it looked so fucking brutal that it added a layer. Like from the get-go, your heart's racing because you think you just saw somebody die.
Yes.
And then it just kept racing through this entire violent fucking battle.
I suspect the Jericho of like 3.5 months ago, he might have been killed.
That's true. There's less weight on his neck here.
Jericho is in tremendous shape for his age.
Yes. So he survived, and you mentioned your adrenaline was already peaked because of that spot. And some matches have peaks and valleys. This match was one 15-minute peak. They essentially had a crazy Kings Road All Japan fight, as we've mentioned many times. Hit each other really hard, suplexed each other really hard, tried to submit each other, stretching on each other really hard, just wailing at each other, and it's back and forth constantly. And then when the match starts, it's a very clear pro Eddie crowd, like 95% or more for Eddie. And then it gets to more 50-50 as the match goes on. The crowd is so impressed with Jericho, what he has done. And the thing about matches like this and why they would be so hard to do is that the physical part of it is very obvious. But to keep your mental intensity and emotional intensity up that high for 15 bloody minutes, that's hard. And eventually...
Not only is that hard,
yes,
but I could be wrong here, but I think that this is only... So the second match Jericho's had since whatever happened to him in England happened?
As a singles?
I think it's the second match. Not singles, just... Did he have one other match in between?
Yeah, he had this trios match where he never tagged in.
No, okay, I'm not talking about that one.
Okay.
The one that he had like a couple of weeks ago. I don't think he had one in between.
He had lost the tag match to Santana and Ortiz.
Yep, and then was there another one?
I think that's it.
Okay, so this is second match since that happened.
Yeah.
And it was 14 minutes of...
oh my God!
Violence and physicality and
there was no stalling.
No,
there was no patience. There was no deliberate pace. There was two guys trying to kill each other now. And it took 15 minutes. Eventually, one of them did kill each other when Eddie ducked the Judas effect, hit a pair of back fists, and finished Jericho off with a move. I don't know if I've ever seen any major U.S. wrestling match a stretch plum.
Well, yeah, they were going back to...
because it was All Japan.
Yes.
I've only done this in Fire Pro. So, Eddie Kingston wins. He defeats Jericho. And afterwards, he extends a hand, and Jericho promised, if you beat me, I will shake your hand and say I respect you. And here in the moment of truth, Jericho can't bring himself to do it. He shakes his head and leaves disappointed in himself. This was awesome. And in the end, as great as some other things were, I think this actually was my favorite match in the show.
Wow.
I think it was my favorite Eddie Kingston match in AEW. I think it was my favorite Chris Jericho match in AEW. For God's sake, get the replay or whatever you do, buy the show, watch this match. This match alone justifies the price.
Yeah, so they had a lot of things they could do for the finish. I thought they were going to have, like, Jericho beats him, and then they have a second match, and Kingston has him beaten, but, like, the ref doesn't see it or whatever, and then Jericho fucks him to win. And then, of course, the third match, Eddie Kingston gets his big win in the handshake or whatever. And I think Lance had the idea that Jericho beats him, but then, like, you know, gives him a low blow or whatever afterwards. But we just done that low blow deal. So they chose. Kingston submits him, doesn't just pin him. He made him quit.
Mm-hmm.
But Jericho will not give him the handshake and walks off. One way or the other, whatever finish they do, this continues. Because, you know, as I mentioned a few weeks ago, Jericho doesn't do one and done. Jericho does programs. And this is the beginning of a long program. And if you look at the show here, there was this match, there was the three-way tag, there was Punk and MJF, there was Moxley and Danielson, and there was Page and Cole. And I think all 5 of those are going to get votes for the best match on the show. And I mean, a lot of people, they watch those three-way tags and there's just too much stuff for them. So if you're talking about like singles matches, you're down to this one, the Punk match, the Moxley match, and the Hangman match. And this one had the best heat of any of those matches. Like, there were points during the Punk match where the crowd was quiet. There were points during the Moxley-Danielson match where they were quiet. And Hangman and Adam, the match started with the fans just entertaining themselves. Mm-hmm. They're chanting, "Let's go, Adam. Adam Cole, Adam sucks," or whatever. Or "Let's go, Adam, Adam sucks."
I like "This is Adam." That was my favorite.
They got him by the end. But the point is, if you're looking at what match had absolutely fantastic wrestling, violence, psychology, a clean finish, and had the crowd, I mean, this one would have been the best match on the show.
You know, you stated that Eddie dropped Jericho with a half and half suplex and he landed on his neck. The same thing happened to Eddie Kingston. He got dropped with a half.
There was a point later, yes.
And he landed on half of his head and half of his neck.
Yeah.
That's the half and half. The takeaway.
I don't think that's what it's supposed to mean.
The takeaway from all this, I need to see Eddie Kingston and Chris Jericho against Bryan Danielson and John.
Oh, that day will come.
I can't wait.
That day will come, I'm sure, someday. And it needs to be exactly like these two matches put together.
Oh my
then
God.
It would be a 2 million star match.
I can't even fathom that.
Yes.
I don't know. I would just fade away. My soul would go to heaven immediately. That would be that. Young Bucks versus Red Dragon versus Jurassic Express for the tag titles. So it's exactly what you would expect. A party match where the heels begin working together, but as the match goes along, their alliance gets weaker and weaker and weaker. Kyle O'Reilly goes for a pin about 5 minutes in, and the Bucks are very upset at him for trying to win the match. He apologizes. So they just continue. Keep in mind, it's not an elimination match. It's one fall to a finish. So at some point, somebody will have to pin someone. I'm not sure what grand plan they all had. But the same thing happened. The Bucks go for a pin. Red Dragon breaks that up. And then they're trying to do a double team. And Kyle accidentally boots Matt. And finally, in the end, of course, they are all just fighting each other, just tooth and nail. And in the meantime, this gives Jurassic Express a chance to recover. And Luchasaurus gets an amazing hot tag and choke slams and moonsaults everyone in the world. And 7,000 moves are going on. And eventually, the Bucks go for more bang for your buck on Jungle Boy. He escapes it with, I believe, a German suplex and a top rope Rana. So he has dispatched of both Bucks by himself. Nick rolls outside. Luchasaurus does a giant dive onto everyone on the floor. Matt tried to do something with a cold spray. I'm not even sure. He was trying to use the cold spray in a roll-up, but it didn't matter. Jungle Boy escaped that, and they pinned him with their flip into a powerbomb thing. It was a lot of fun.
Dude, this match was I would go as far as to say this was a great match. And it's funny because one person stands out in this match.
Yes.
It's the Luchasaurus.
Right.
He's a gigantic dude. And he does a lot of flips and everything like that. But when you think of like small, fast-moving wrestlers, it was everyone except him. And in some ways, he was actually the most impressive guy in this match. Because all of the, except for his own partner, obviously, every other one of those little guys decided that they were going to just bump their ass off for this dinosaur.
Yeah.
And fuck, every time he made a hot tag, they're just flying all over the place and flipping, and he's doing all these dives. I mean, he was great in this match. And the Bucks are always great. And Jungle Boy was great. Kyle O'Reilly and Bobby Fish was great. My whole review is everybody was fucking great.
I have no argument.
And they had a great match. And we had a winner at the end, and it was Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus. And it's just an easy story. You have two teams that are on, like, they're two heel teams, and they're frenemies, for lack of a better term.
That's exactly right.
So it's frenemies against the champions.
Yeah.
And so there's two ways that you can look at it as a viewer and someone who is following the story. Either the champs are fucked because the frenemies are going to get along and take them out, and then fight among themselves, and like one of those teams will walk out with the titles, or they will not be able to get along in the end. And in fact, even though it's kind of 2 against 1, the one has the advantage because the two can't get along. simple story. They told the story great. It worked out, and I like this match a lot.
Yeah, that was my favorite part of the story, was that the two heel teams were teaming up to take out the two baby faces, and at most points it was just Luchasaurus swatting four small men out of the sky again and again and again. And it was so fun, and it was awesome. Love this match.
The Face of the Revolution ladder match. Christian Cage versus Powerhouse Hobbs versus Ricky Starks versus Wardlow versus Keith Lee versus Orange Cassidy. So they had a couple of storylines going through this. You had Starks and Hobbs being the only team. Everyone else had no friends in there. There was a moment when Starks and Hobbs found themselves alone in the ring with a ladder, and they agreed to shake hands and race to the top of the ladder. It turns out neither of them won anyway. You had, of course, the three Hosses taking turns doing power moves with the three skinny geeks. And we talked about the Hosses going into this. We didn't really talk about how you'd be hard pressed to find a better collection of skinny geeks to contrast with these Hosses than Christian Cage, Orange Cassidy, and Christian Starks. Starks is the third one. They're skinny. The other dudes are big. They found a lot of creative ways to use the ladders beyond just throwing guys into them or onto them or down onto them or using them as weapons or whatever. But like two guys be holding the ladder and somebody else will try to climb it, or somebody be holding the ladder in the corner and somebody climb off that and do a splash or what have you. The best of which, I think it was Lee and Hobbs. May have been Wardlow, but the real star is Orange Cassidy, because Orange is doing the Terry Funk ladder on the neck airplane spin spot. Everyone's balking into it. And two of the monsters grab each end of the ladder and lift it. And Orange is hanging from it at first, and then he skins the cat to the top of the ladder, stands on top of it, goes to grab the big shiny Cheerio hanging above the ring, which is how you win. But they shake the ladder.
This fucking brass ring. Can't they get like a real ring? You ever gone to a magic store to do the Chinese linking rings, they're called?
I'm familiar with.
Just get fucking one of those and hang that from the fucking ceiling. That giant life raft, it's ridiculous.
Yes.
And by the way, you know, I don't think this is why Cody left, but I can't help but note that was a man who's not a fan of heights, and they fucking hung that shit 300 feet above the ring. And they had that poor fucker climb like a 90-foot ladder. And meanwhile, we have nothing but tall blokes in this match. And they have nothing but short ladders. And literally the ring is so low that Orange Cassidy almost grabbed it standing on someone's shoulders.
Yeah.
Wow.
There was a point where two guys were fighting and Orange just climbed them. There was no ladder even involved.
And I'm a fan of like safety and everything. Don't get me wrong. But I couldn't help but notice.
So most of these spots were actually very safe, which made me happy until the very end, which we'll get to. We had Ricky Starks diving off the top rope through a ladder to spear Christian. We had eventually we had Keith Lee doing a bee on Orange Cassidy onto everyone. He overshot his target. In fact, I don't know this, but that's the last time I wrote down Orange Cassidy's name. And if he got hurt, I would bet that's where it was.
Yep.
So everyone starts brawling out there. The three big guys all brawl up on top of the stage, and Wardlow ends up shoving the other two off through a pair of tables. They disappear. So Starks is climbing. Danhausen appears. He curses Starks. And this curse struck hard because there's a ladder set up in the middle of the ring that Starks is climbing. There's a ladder bridge horizontally behind him. And Wardlow appears, does a perfect flat foot jump up to the top of this ladder, which is very impressive. Then he goes to powerbomb Starks off the top of the big ladder onto the ladder bridge.
Good Lord.
And didn't Ricky Starks very recently miss a lot of time with a bad neck injury?
Yep.
Yeah.
Because he came down on his neck on a ladder rung.
It was weird because it was like, and you know, a power bomb, I always talk about whether you take your own bump or not. And a power bomb, you don't really take your own bump. I mean, the other guy, you know, he gives you the power bomb. But it's very easy to put the guy down flat. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what happened here, but it was like Wardlow lifted the guy up, and then he decided he wanted to take his own bump, and he just like fell back.
It almost...
And then Wardlow was like, I got to put this guy down, and he dropped him like high angle. I don't know what happened here, but it looked like the guy was dead. And it's a good thing that this Wardlow fellow won, because of everybody in this match, they made this guy look like the biggest fucking dork with two spots. The first is They did some big fucking giant train wreck spot, and like everybody is dead on the outside, and Wardlow is alone in the ring. There's a fucking ladder right there, and there's a life ring above his head. Wardlow then just gets out of the ring and starts beating up dudes that are already dead on the floor. And even the crowd got quiet, like, what the fuck's this dummy doing? Like, go get that fucking ring, dude. And then later, he's on the stage with Keith Lee, and they both go to grab a ladder, and they tear the ladder in two, and so they each have half of the ladder, and so Wardlow says, let's go. And so he goes and he turns his back on Keith Lee, and Keith Lee hits him with the ladder and fucking lays him out. I was like, that's 2 strikes, brother. That's 2 strikes, you being a dumb babyface. And then he won. So, and he redeemed himself later in the show. So it all worked out fine, but something must have been weird because that spot was just bizarre where he was alone in the ring and then he just left. And it wasn't like he left to beat up people that were standing. He lifted people off the ground and started punching them. I was like, what?
I don't know what happened there.
This was a little clunky.
And the finish...
It was largely safe, but it was a little clunky.
Sorry, Craig, go ahead.
I was just going to say, Wardlow dropping Starks, you had to remember he was on a ladder bridge, which I'm sure is not very stable. I know it's called a bridge, but it's not like we had engineers in the Army Corps out there putting it together. He kind of fell back, and Starks just... Thank God he put his hand on the back of his head because he basically landed on it. And
yes, it was Will Hobbs. I apologize. Go ahead.
That looked like it sucked.
Yeah, it was Will Hobbs that turned on that idiot Wardlow.
It almost looked like on the finish there, like Starks was going to do Hurricane Rana, and Wardlow was going for a power bomb, and there was some kind of malfunction. Apparently, he is alive. That's wonderful news. I'm happy to hear that. But anyway, regardless, Wardlow is your Face of the Revolution winner. He will get a TNT title shot, and I believe they said it was going to be on Rampage.
Well, there you go.
Or Dynamite. Excuse me, Dynamite.
There you go.
And I'm guessing the storyline is that AEW had to hire him since he's their number one.
Well, we don't have a storyline yet.
Well,
we'll have to find out.
I'm making it up as I go along.
They'll explain it. You know, the other thing that I noticed in this match was we were previewing Rampage, and it was Wednesday, so the show hadn't happened yet. It wasn't a tape show; it was live, and we were talking about the Christian qualifying match with Ethan Page, and Dave said, "I think Christian's going to win because he's a master at putting together ladder matches." And I thought, well, if he's a master at putting them together, he doesn't need to be in it. He can just help put them together, right?
Sure.
But he won. Because that is his gimmick, his ladder matches. But his gimmick is also that he's like 48 years old and had multiple concussions. And so when he won, I was a little bit kind of worried. Everyone go watch this match again and watch Christian. This dude took nothing. Nothing. And I'll bet nobody noticed. Because there was all these other guys that take crazy shit.
Yeah.
I think the craziest thing he did was there was a ladder that got tipped over, and he landed on his feet and neck to the top rope. I think that was literally the most dangerous thing he did in this entire match.
He did a reverse DDT off the ladder with, I think it was Starks.
Sure, but it wasn't from high up, and he just landed on his stomach.
It was about midway up.
He was very safe.
Yeah, no doubt, but he did some stuff.
All right, before we get into this next segment, I just want to take you all back in time to yesterday when I watched the main event of Defy 50, Swerve versus Nick Wayne. It's on YouTube. It's free right now. For God's sake, go watch that too.
Yep.
And then I tweeted the following. I will quote myself verbatim. You all know how I feel about Nick Wayne and how happy I am to see him succeed. But can we talk a bit about how unbelievably great Swerve is and how he should be main eventing everywhere? Well, Tony Schiavone says we have a new talent. It's the realist Shane Swerve Strickland. As Swerve appears, he is all elite. He simply says, I could go on and on about all the great matches I'm going to have, all the titles I'm going to win, but I've just got one question. And the crowd starts chanting, whose house? Swerve's house. And he says, I love you too, and he disappears. But yes, Swerve is all elite. I'm very happy about this. It is well-deserved.
I presume that he's going to be a babyface because, I saw a lot of Swerve before he went to NXT. And boy, was that guy popular in Defy.
Mm-hmm.
What a fucking babyface.
You don't say.
And he goes to NXT, and of course they turned him heel. I was like, why is this fucking guy a heel? Like, can someone explain this to me?
If you watch his Nick Wayne match, you'll understand.
Well, he's facing fucking Nick Wayne. I mean, he is. I'm not saying he can't be a heel or he wasn't a good heel.
I see.
But like, there's some people that I see him as a babyface, and I don't give a fuck
He's
how good
better
of
as a
heel
babyface.
you are. Like,
He's better as a babyface.
Sami Zayn's a great example. Sami Zayn's character is profoundly annoying. He's like he plays a great heel, but you know what? The best Sami Zayn I ever saw by leaps and bounds was when he was a babyface. And it's not even fucking close. As great as he is as a heel, he's 1,000 times better as a babyface.
Now, with all that said, Swerve's new gimmick, if you want to call it that, the realist, there is an edge to him, and I don't know if he's going to be a babyface or not. The realist that I saw with Nick Wayne, full on heel. I don't know what they're going to do with him in AEW.
They can do either. He will be successful. I'm confident in him, young man. Ty Conti versus Jade Cargill. So Jade gets a live music entrance, which is always awesome.
This fucking guy needs to be on every show.
The guitar player?
Oh my God. He was unbelievable.
So the match begins with a smooch as the bell rings and Jade just grabs Ty and kisses her right in the lips. It catches everyone off guard. And
if she would have kissed her and then kicked her and pinned her, this would have been the second best match on the show.
They almost did that because she went for the Jaded like 5 seconds later. But Ty escaped and the match continued, and Ty kissed her back at the end. But so they had like 5 or 6 minutes, and they said
7.
It went 7 minutes.
Yep.
Might have went a little longer than I thought. Regardless, they had a 14-minute match in 7 minutes. They did everything.
Well, I would prefer that to a 14-minute match in 14 minutes, quite frankly.
For these two, probably, yeah. We had Jade teasing the karate bullshit and then trying some but fucking it up.
I fucking laughed. No, it's better than that. Okay. So first off, Ty doesn't do karate.
No.
That's part of the gimmick. As Jade says, I don't want to see that karate shit, bitch. That promo last week on anyway, so that's like her new gimmick is making fun of Ty for doing karate. So she's making fun of her, and she does like the crane pose, and she does some katas or whatever. And then finally, she goes for a fucking karate chop. She's going to go hi-ya and do a karate chop on top of the head. So of all fucking things, Ty Conti, who doesn't do karate, she does judo and jiu-jitsu, she does an X block, and she blocks the karate chop, and fucking I died. This was not like a great match, don't get me wrong, but like the shit they did that I loved was just like, it was great. Fucking blocking that with the X block or whatever, the cross block. There actually is this, because I used to take karate in Taekwondo, and there's like this, you go, cha! Sure. There's like and she fucking did that, and it blocked the karate chop. It worked.
Absolutely would.
Yeah.
So there was a spot where like somebody went for a pin, and they were like in the ropes, and I think something was supposed to happen that was lead to Jade leaving the ring, because Mark just calls for Jade to come out of the ring, and Jade leaves the ring, and then Ty does a big dive onto them. So it wasn't the best match I ever saw. But you had Jade attacking Anna Jay at ringside, and then Anna Jay hitting Jade with a chair, and Jade kicking out of that.
Kinda.
You had Ty kissing Jade back, hitting the DD Ty for 2. You had Jade blocking the Ty KO, hitting a spinning slam for 2. Jade, for I believe the first time that I remember, goes to the top rope and does a beautiful frog splash.
Yes.
Yeah, it was really nice.
Yeah.
Like, you know what's funny too is she's so jacked up and she's got like the great abs and everything like that. I don't know if you guys go to the gym or not.
Been a while.
But anyway, so they have the ab machine.
I'm aware of it.
Okay, so you sit in this chair, all right, and you actually sit up and you hold these things like this and you crunch and there's weights, right?
Sure.
That's exactly what her fucking frog splash looked like. Because she made fists and she crunched and then she opened up. It was exactly like she was on the seated ab machine. It looked good.
Yeah, the best worker in this match was Jade's double stick tape.
So it was funny because Jade, as we talked about, she looks amazing. Her talking is great, especially in short doses. She has great presence and she's clearly big and strong, but she's not always the most smooth athlete you ever saw. But this frog splash was amazing. She needs to do this, I wouldn't say more often, because it's a dangerous move and she gets screwed up, and Eddie Guerrero hurt himself doing this move. I don't want to see Jade do that. But anyway, it looked great. You had Ty using Anna as a shield to hit a cheap shot as they were just blatantly cheating to try and beat her to do whatever they can. We had a pile driver by Ty Conti, which scared the hell out of me just because of those words. Pile driver by Ty Conti. but everyone survived, and eventually Jade tripped her in the turnbuckle and hit Jaded and won. Whew.
Dude, they
did
made
a lot of stuff.
They made it through. And at the end of the day, Jade's now I think she's had 28 matches in her whole fucking career. And she looks like a star, and she carries herself like a star, and she talks like a star. And, you know, as I've talked about 1,000 times, you can look at the ratings pattern. People see her as a star. And this audience is accepting of where she is now based on her level of experience. Some places they might not be, but this audience is. And she's trying hard. She's working her ass off. She's not in there half-assing it. And I think that they respect her for like how far she's come in a very, very short period of time. So it wasn't like a great match or anything like that, but I mean, they made it through. Whoever put it together, I mean, I think they had the right idea. They did the best they could, and that's the match.
CM Punk versus MJF in a dog collar match. So, cult of personality starts to play. And I actually wrote down, Punk's coming out first. That's surprising. But it is a swerve, so they can cancel his music and play MJF so he can piss off the fans. And then it leads to the best entrance, which is CM Punk coming out to his Ring of Honor theme song, AFI Miseria Cantera, I believe it's pronounced. And it's just simple. He's got his ROH gear. He's got like the basketball shorts. Someone pointed out it looked exactly like the jacket and shorts he had in his last Ring of Honor match, these many years ago. And it just sets a totally different mood. And it's not just out of nowhere, because the whole feud has been about how MJF was a huge fan of CM Punk dating back to the Ring of Honor days. He wanted the old CM Punk. He's getting the old CM Punk. So it's a dog collar match. Hey, they did everything they promised. They hit each other with a chain really hard. They bled everywhere.
You know what's funny about that chain?
Nothing.
Well,
nothing was funny about this chain.
So this was a big, strong steel fucking chain.
Yes.
And, you know, you guys know what the concerto is, I presume. You know the trick of the concerto. You don't really hit the guy in the head.
Yeah, of course.
It's the camera angle, and you hit the chair a little bit past their head. And so you hit 100% the mat and 0% the head. So the funny thing was, these guys, they were trying to sort of do that with the chain. This was not like when you hit a guy with a kendo stick and these people are just fucking whacking him with the stick. I mean, they were trying to be careful with that chain, and especially Punk was trying to mostly hit the mat and not MJF. But like MJF was trying the same thing, and one fucking shot with that chain, and CM Punk had all of these link marks on his back.
He got new tattoos now.
Like that fucking chain was no joke. And the other great thing about this match, I mean, the best thing about the match was it was like a really good match, but watching this fucking referee, because the referee, I think, so I'm not sure exactly how it worked, but I think Punk had his blade in his mouth, okay, which is what the old school guys did, because he was going in his mouth right before he bladed. It's either right before or right after. So he either had it in his mouth and then did it, or he did the cut and then put it in your mouth, which is the way a lot of the old guys did it. I think MJF's blade, I think the referee had it, because MJF did not bleed for a long time. And then, like right before he did, and perhaps the referee just had, fleas, but the ref starts reaching in his sleeve and he's like going like this. And I'm watching the ref, and the ref, he's desperately getting up at like there's a giant fucking spider in there or something. And he's reaching around in here forever, and like he's all distracted, and I'm like, what the fuck is this referee doing? And finally he gets down on his knees, and then, next thing you know, MJF's bleeding all over. And then, so I think he added his shirt or something like that. And then there was the Danielson Moxley match where, I think it was a Danielson-Moxley match.
Yes.
It was. So Danielson was going to come up bleeding. So Danielson,
yes.
Danielson's on the outside, and he cuts himself.
Kinda.
Well, yeah, that's the point. And he gets back in the ring, and I think it was Bryce Remsburg, whoever the referee was. He slides over there, and you can see Bryan Danielson look up, and he's got like this little triangle trickle of blood right here. There's almost nothing. And you see him and Bryce talking, and then you see Bryce hand him another blade. And then Bryan just goes, and he just really jabs himself, and then he hands it back to Bryce again. So I think Danielson was asking, which was actually very similar to when I bled with Buddy. Like, did I get anything? And he goes, no, do it again. So the referee told him, do it again. And then Punk's, I could be wrong about this, but I swear that Punk he was bleeding on Wednesday, and so he had like a thing right here, a little scab.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't know if I was just imagining things, but it looked like he had the blade in his hand, and he just went, bam, and jabbed himself. Like just one, and then instead of the usual blah, 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 it looked like he just jabbed himself with this fucking blade right where he was cut the last time. And this dude was fucking bleeding everywhere.
So on Wednesday, it was basically just a hole in his head.
That's what it was. His hole had, yeah.
Yeah, and so at one point he tilted his head back, and the thing was squirting. And the same thing happened here. So it's not the way I would gig, but hey, more power to him. He hit a gusher both times.
It worked.
These men were determined to bleed on this show.
And he got the
they weren't going to
desired effect.
half-ass bleed.
And I think Moxley won the bleeding match.
Moxley won. We'll get to him. We'll get to that later. So, yes, you had MJF, as noted, is beating up Punk with his chain. He grabs a mic. He demands Punk quit on the people like he quit on Max. Punk tells him to eat shit instead. This results in an eat shit Max chant, which is a new one. So you mentioned Punk whipped him with the chain first, and then MJF whipped Punk. And as you noted, that was the really, really brutal one. And when Punk gets his receipt, you can hear him shout, "It sucks, don't it, Max?" So Punk is working over MJF's hand. He wraps the hand in the chain. He drops several knees into the hand. And MJF spends his time working over Punk's knee. And so several times guys go for moves, pile drivers or sleepers, whatever, and they can't get the move done because their hand and or knee gives out. So they're unable to hit things. And they're exhausted and they're bleeding. And this is a war. This is a war. There are casualties. And finally, the tacks end up out there. There's many teases of bumps into the thumbtacks. Eventually, Punk is superplexed into the tacks. It kind of missed. His ass went into the tacks more than his backs, but I'm sure it hurt the same, just didn't get as much blood. And Max decides enough is enough. Let's finish this. He calls for Wardlow. Wardlow comes out. He is showered, put his suit on, and he comes out, but it's a different Wardlow. He's got a little smirk to his face. He's had enough, and he comes out there, and he goes into his pocket, but there's no ring there. Goes to the other pocket, goes to his pants, goes to his inside pockets, and he gives a little half-assed shrug. He doesn't know where the ring is. And so MJF is furious. He turns around. Punk hits the go to sleep, and Max bumps right into the tacks.
His selling of that bump in the tacks was just fucking unbelievable. It was so great.
At this point, Wardlow says, "Oops, here it is." He remembered where he left the ring. He takes out the big, heavy, pokey-ass ring, looks right at CM Punk in the eye, sets it on the apron, and he walks away.
Dude, I had a whole bunch of people that messaged me that were watching this in a bar, and they go, when fucking Wardlow found the ring and put it on the apron, the fucking bar just went crazy.
I'm sure it did, but it amazes me because what else did they think was going to happen? Like, he actually forgot the ring?
Hey, well, you could do the thing where, oh, Max wants a ring, but I forgot it. And, like, that's the end of it. But then when he found it, oh, here it is. Yeah. I'll put it right in front of CM Punk. That's when they lost it.
Yeah. So Max gets one last spit in Punk's face, but Punk punches him in the ring and wins. A very grueling, dramatic, violent blow-off to this program. It is done. There's no question about that. CM Punk has won. We will now move on to other things, which for MJF obviously is something with Wardlow, and Punk, I don't know, but this was awesome.
Yeah, I thought that this match, there was a point in the middle where they sort of, I don't want to say they lost the crowd, but I mean, it is a dog collar match, and so you're, by design, limited. You're more limited than, and there was one point where the chain was wrapped around the ropes, and it was like, MJF was suddenly reading that New York Times, crossword puzzle page or whatever. He's trying to figure out how the fuck do I get undone in these goddamn fucking
There was
ropes.
a puzzle to be solved,
And first he tries to go over, then he realizes, oh, now I'm double tied. Then he has to go back over again. And then finally when he figured it out in his brain, you never saw a guy go under the bottom and over the middle faster than this guy did to set up the thing on the end. But you are more limited with the chain match, but they had a lot of good psychology in there. You know, the point of working over the hand played into the match later when Max tried to use the hand and couldn't. And then if there was anyone in the crowd that it was kind of like zoning out during the match, soon as fucking Wardlow came out and they did that angle there at the end, everybody was into this match. It was a payoff of like literally a 2-year storyline with MJF and Wardlow, and it was a perfect ending. Like, this was another one of those matches. If you paid $59 or whatever, not how much this pay-per-view was, but whatever you paid, because you were promised a dog collar match, you got your money's worth. There was no match on this show where whatever you were promised was not delivered. Not one. Everything you were promised was delivered and more so. Unlike in fucking Madison Square Garden.
This was a great storytelling match. This was fantastic. I did like the Punk wrapping his knee with the chain and delivering the knee. That I've never seen that in any match, to be honest with you. Also, when the ref was counting the 3 count at the very end, this poor guy, it's the old ECW ref, name escapes me. Anyway, he pounds the mat for the 3rd time and he grimaces.
Albano?
And
Finnegan?
Not Finnegan, you idiot.
No.
Jeff Jones?
Get out of here.
So he grimaces and he reaches down and he's got a tack in his hand. So he pulls the tack out and then he grimaces again and he pulls another one out of his knee.
That's Paul Turner.
Is that the guy?
Of all the people, they're not smart enough to wear a bunch of shit underneath their clothes. There's another one in this match. I don't know what happened. I think it was this match. Because, it was the one with the thumbtacks. The referee was in charge of, like, moving the thumbtacks or something. Because he was fucking around outside the ring for, like, an hour. And then he, like, changed his gloves or something. And so Excalibur covered it saying, "There's so much blood he had to change his gloves." Like, okay.
Thunder Rosa versus Britt Baker. So these poor women were put in the death spot.
Yep.
And for a long time, die is exactly what they did. Now, there was a point here, actually. I forget what happened exactly, but one of the women tried something and failed. And when the announcer said, well, she gave it a go, but it was just a waste of time. And I muttered out loud something about how this whole match was a waste of time. And by the end, I take it back because they were put in a very, very difficult spot. And they had a lot of time to use, and they used the time. And by the end, the crowd was back into this. And that is the sign of a good wrestling match when you take a crowd that does not care and convince them to care. So that part's great. Bad part is, after getting them to care again, you give them tons and tons of interference, and Justin the Babyface fights all that interference. You have the heel win to kill the crowd again. I didn't like this very much. I thought this is the low point of the show.
Well, I don't know what is going on, but, like, these two had that lights out match, and it was great. And they have never recaptured that magic when they're in the ring together. They were in the ring together on Rampage on Friday, and I don't know what the hell was going on in that match. And then they were in this match here, and particularly the middle part of the match was when I really noticed it. Middle part of the match, it was like they were on different pages. And, they started with Last Man Standing. Now they do this, which it was like Ghetto booked it. The whole fucking Bullet Club interfered, like 700 people interfered to lead to the finish, because clearly they wanted to protect Thunder Rosa even though they were beating her. So my presumption, and I don't know this, but one would think that this would lead to a blow-off match in a cage or something like that. And I could have sworn, I don't know if Tony Schiavone was he announced some Thunder Rosa match on Wednesday. Thunder Rosa and Layla Hirsch, was it? And the winner gets Britt?
Yeah, it's the number 1 contenders match.
I was like, what? For the women's title? Like, Thunder Rosa just lost, and she's now in a number 1 contenders match for the same belt? So I don't know if they're going to go, like, right back to it, or if Thunder Rosa gets screwed and Layla Hirsch gets a shot, and then whoever screws Thunder Rosa, they have a feud for a while. I mean, I guess, who they could use is Paige Van Zandt screws Thunder Rosa. Because Paige Van Zandt needs a new opponent now that Brandy's gone. So you could do that, and then go back to Britt and Thunder Rosa one more time down the road. But after this match, I'm not ready for another Thunder Rosa Britt Baker match. So that's my thoughts.
I've been very, very critical of the women's division, and I will say this: these girls worked really hard, and they got nothing in return.
In the end, that's basically true.
And when the two factions attacked each other, Rebel got speared through the
Oh,
ropes
Christ.
and took a flat back bump. Thank God she fell on her butt because it could have been fatal.
Yeah, I would not.
Rebel of all people.
Rebel doesn't need to be taking bumps off the apron to the floor. We all screamed in this room when that happened too. Good news. The show turned around immediately. Bryan Danielson versus Jon Moxley. They did a little bit of grappling. And then they proceeded.
What that was?
Then they proceeded to hit each other as hard as they possibly could, especially Danielson, with every available body part. And they weren't doing a lot of things like Minoru Suzuki elbow or a big vaulter chop. So they weren't maybe as spectacular as a lot of stiff wrestling matches you may have seen. But I'm watching these close-ups of Danielson punching and kicking and kneeing Jon Moxley in the gut and ribs. Just
You know what this match needed?
smashing him.
They needed that UFC 4K slow motion camera for replay.
Yes.
Because you would have seen so much jiggling flesh
Oh,
in
Christ.
this fucking match. These guys beat the holy living fucking shit out of each other. And they bled. And, like, they had that interview segment. You might recall, Vinny, because we reviewed it on Wednesday, where Danielson beats up Chris Daniels. And then Moxley comes out, and Moxley's just pacing like that angry tiger.
Right, yeah.
And what did I say? I said, I fucking watched this interview segment, and all I could think was a fan was that shit's going down at this pay-per-view. And god damn it, did shit ever fucking go down. That is the only way to describe this match. If someone said, what happened in this match? I'd say, shit went down. And you don't need to hear anything else, because that's what fucking happened. Shit went down in this fucking match. Two guys got in the ring and shit went down. And they were bleeding everywhere, and they fucking hit each other as hard as they could, and they pounded on each other and stretched each other and fucked each other up. And then one guy was killing the other fucker. He had him in a triangle. He was fucking killing him, and he was elbowing him to death. And then a guy rolled over and pinned him. God damn, what more do I need to say? There's nothing more to say. Tom texted me and he said, this was all the stars in the Milky Way.
Yes.
I just went with a million, because I'm not sure how many stars are in the Milky Way. But you know what? Whichever is more, a million or the number of stars in the Milky Way, that's how many fucking stars this match gets. Like, start to fucking scale over at like a million. Everyone mad that Dave gave a match 7 stars. I give that match 1,000,000 stars. You don't like it? Fuck you. Go watch it. Go watch something else. Go watch some, like, fucking volleyball. Or nothing against volleyball, but, like, go watch some fucking sport where WWE's getting all their athletes, some goofy whatever, doing whatever. I want to watch fucking men fight and beat the shit out of each other, and I got that in this match. God damn.
I saw Moxley bleed less in a GCW death match a few months ago.
The big spot is Danielson hits a tope, and they start brawling on the floor, and they both come up bloody. Now, technically that is true, but 99% of this blood was Moxley's. Mm-hmm. It's pouring out of the front of his head. There's some pouring off the back of his head. It's all over his shoulders. It's pouring down his chest. He looks like Finn Balor with face paint on. And they cut to Danielson, and he has just one red dot in his head. Just like a great imbalance. And fortunately, they corrected it as best they could. There's also a point right before that where, as these men are just smashing each other, there's some awkward silence at the announce desk. And then Jim Ross just mutters, "Tony, what the hell are you doing?" And Tony says, "I'm very excited. I'm getting animated."
I can only imagine. He must have been doing something on that chair.
I could even stand up or shaking or something. I don't know.
God damn, I don't blame the guy.
So,
Fuck.
yeah.
There's not much to say about this. They just hate each other.
I can, well, looking over here, lays in the MMA elbows, lays in the cross faces, massive kick fight with a knuckle lock. There was
I'll bet if you interviewed either of those guys right now, they'd tell you it was nothing. This match was nothing. It's the fucking easiest match in the world.
I certainly hope that's true.
But goddamn, what a match.
There was, in fact, a regal plex in the match as Danielson regal plexed Moxley onto his head. But as you noted, he was running wild. He hit the knee strike, and even though Moxley kicked out of that, Danielson just goes to the triangle choke with a bunch of punches. He puts his fist right on Moxley's eyeball, makes sure it's where he wants it to go, and rears back and punches him in the eye. But then Moxley rolls through over the top, and he gets the 3 count. I would much rather take a suplex than attacks and a chain to the back, and the beating these men gave each other with their
Dude,
fists and kicks.
Bryan Danielson on the Observer show the other day was talking about how him and probably Moxley and some other guys want to go to the G1. And fucking, like, those guys are going to watch this fucking match and go, we don't want him.
No, they're banned from the country.
Crazy? We got 25 shows in a month. That's not happening. Golly. I love this match with every shred of fiber. 100 million stars, apparently, by the way, in the Milky Way.
Okay.
So, yeah, that's what this match was.
Okay. Now there's more. We have more to say about this match because Danielson is outraged that he had his shoulders down, and Moxley says, that's fine, we can fight more. And they start fighting more, and the rest waving his hands for help, and who should emerge to break up this brawl but one William Regal? He's all elite
Addressed
now.
as William, by the way, not Steven.
They didn't notice that, too. They called him William. I don't see how that works out, but he, of course, had a hand in training and or mentoring and or working with both these dudes. And he comes out, and of course, it's Regal, and he's just got the best facial expressions ever. And he's disgusted with these two. Mm-hmm. And the match is over. There's no point in fighting now. And he pulls Moxley aside and just slaps the absolute piss out of him. Just harder than he was in the match itself. Danielson's laughing his ass off at this, so Regal turns around and slaps the piss out of him. He demands they shake hands, and it's very tense, but they do. They all leave together, and this faction has now been a thing for approximately, 90 minutes? It's already the greatest faction I ever saw in my life.
Okay.
Apparently Regal signed, so maybe he will be their man.
Yeah, they've announced it.
Holy
William
shit.
Regal, and they called him William Regal in the tweet, too. William Regal's all elite.
God damn, this was just...
Regal is a manager and mouthpiece. Not that either of you guys needs a mouthpiece, but
Right.
It's an unbelievably great role and an unbelievably great unit.
He's got blood coming down his forehead, and...
He's grinding his head into Moxley's, so...
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
One dot on the end of his nose of blood. This was one of those things where I wasn't expecting it, and I popped. I just, like a kid at Christmas time. It's like, that's my guy, and there he is. I was not expecting William. I was half expecting Jeff Hardy tonight. No way on earth did I expect William Regal, and there he was in all of his glory, and I'm so happy.
I looked in the mirror after the show, and I was like, fuck, I'm starting to look like William Regal with this fucking haircut.
You got a lot of shag to go.
Yeah, I guess so.
Oh, let's see. Andrade El Idolo and Matt Hardy and Isaiah Cassidy versus Sammy Guevara and Darby Allin and Sting.
You said that first three-way tag was the party match?
Yeah.
This was the party match when everyone's like really fucked up at the end of the party.
This is the after party.
Yeah, this was.
This is
the after party match.
Like, it was a party, but it was a fucking wreck.
It was a wreck.
This was Big Wood's house about 12:35.
Yes.
Oh God! So this went like 15 or 20 minutes.
Too long.
It was too long. In that time,
13.
it was 13 minutes. Really, all right. Went 13 minutes. For about 10 of those minutes, you couldn't tell a goddamn thing was happening. There were guys brawling everywhere. The camera kept switching. There were guys in the crowd. There were guys in the ring. You lost track of nothing. It was just a complete chaotic mess.
Paisley walked in.
Okay.
Big fan of Sting.
Paisley likes Sting.
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up. She also likes Bryan Danielson.
I didn't hear that one.
You were getting popcorn, I think.
Oh, really?
And she came in, and Danielson came out, and she goes, yes! And
That's her new thing. I don't know where she learned that, but every now and then something happens, she'll go, yes, and she'll shake her fist.
Her fists, yes.
I'm like, where the fuck did you learn that? I certainly don't do that.
Yeah.
No.
I never get excited about anything.
No, you're not an
No
emotional
emotion,
person.
Alvarez.
No.
No.
But then when Sting came out, she says, oh, I like this guy. So she has her favorites. Anyway, so there's only two things in this match that anyone's going to remember. There's Private Party and Butcher and Blade are all out there, so it's like 6-on-3 by the end of this or whatever the math is. But Sammy Guevara did a Spanish fly to Isaiah Cassidy off the entranceway onto two tables. That was nuts. But more nuts by 1,000% is Butcher and Blade setting up 4 tables by a balcony. Andrade somehow ending up on top of this Lincoln log structure. And not Darby Allin, but Sting, the grandfather, the 60-something-year-old man, doing a New Jack balcony dive threw Andrade through 4 tables to the floor.
Yeah, but Vinny, that was only the craziest thing because when you if you explain it to a normal person, it sounds crazy. But there were so many fucking tables that, like, the only way this could go wrong was, well, how it did go wrong for me in the YWF when we put the boards too far apart. And so I thought I would be really smart going through 3 boards, but I fell down and then all the boards fell on top of me at the end.
Gotcha.
Because, so Sting, like, he hit that first table and he only fell like 4 feet. And then the first table breaks, and then it goes to the second table, which kind of breaks. I mean, that was the easiest bump on this planet. I mean, it's crazy when you think that a 64-year-old guy was even considered to do that spot. But I mean, really, he's, you know what he is? He's a bat.
A bat, you say?
I was reading this book about bats, and you know how they fly, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was reading the book, and the book explains that a bat cannot stand and then take off. Okay, a bat can only fall from a great height and then fly.
Gotcha.
I was thinking it's like Shane McMahon. You know, it's all he's good at is falling from a great height. He can't actually fly.
Sure.
Then I saw Sting. Sting is now a bat. He just goes up on something really high and he falls.
He did not jump through these tables.
No,
he fell.
He fell.
Yes.
He glided all the way down.
Yes, gravity is the great equalizer.
Yes. So Darby immediately avoids a twist of hate from Matt Hardy with a chair, hits a scorpion death drop through a chair, missed a coffin drop, but still pinned him. There
They
you
showed
go.
a replay.
He did a it was a reverse diving headbutt was what it ended up being.
I guess so.
To Matt Hardy's hip. And then he pinned him.
He
They
pinned him.
showed a replay. Why did they show a replay of that?
Well, I don't know, but you know what they need to do is now Matt Hardy needs to show up and act like he's got a broken hip.
Well, since you mentioned that,
Just go with it.
Matt Hardy.
I go here to Twitter.
Oh, please.
Matt Hardy says, I want to apologize for costing the AHFO tonight's victory at AEW Revolution. I own tonight's L. I have been very stressed and erratic with my actions recently, and am truly sorry. I promise I'll make it right this Wednesday at Dynamite.
Okay, well. So nothing about his hip?
Didn't say anything about his hip.
Oh,
No, I'm
man.
sorry, Joe.
It was weird, too, because, like, Hardy moved, and he didn't make it better. It was worse. Ugh. Some mess.
Hey, this guy here, by the way, says exactly what I was thinking. Sting with the messed up hair and t-shirt with the skinny pants looked like Danhausen's grandfather.
There was a point.
He actually looked exactly like Danhausen from the back.
He was walking around, and his hair was, he slicks it back, but during the match, it gets all poofy.
Yeah.
And he's lurching around. He's in the middle of a match. He's breathing hard and sweaty, and the camera is like down at hip level, shooting up at him, and he looks like a giant Danhausen lurching around, or Frankenstein's monster.
Yes,
stomping
exactly
around.
what he looked like.
Yeah. This brings us to Adam Cole versus Adam Page for the AEW World Title.
You know what I noticed about Adam Cole? He's very good.
He was very good.
Right.
Yeah. But what I noticed about him was, so we always talk about how Adam Cole's, they said he was 202 pounds.
Huh.
Brother, come on.
Maybe they're including his Halo backpack.
But the fact of the
Loaded
matter
with weight.
is he's a very small guy. And virtually everyone his size is a high flyer. They do high flying spectacular dives, flips, blah, blah, blah.
Sure.
He does none of that.
Right.
He actually works like he's 225 pounds. But the reason it works so well is because, you know, when people use the term the music between the notes,
Right.
what you do in between the moves, Adam Cole is all music between the notes. Like, he does moves, and he has a couple of cool, unique moves, but really, his entire match is all about everything that occurs in between the moves. His reaction to moves, his face when he's setting something up, you know, he shows you with his face what he's thinking of, what he's planning. He's so good at everything in between the moves that the fucking moves really don't even matter. He could do any moves. So I think that everyone should watch Adam Cole and learn how to work.
It's
Because
like
that guy can work.
It's like he took the best stuff from WWE while he was there. You know what I mean?
So it was a tremendous main event, a very good pay-per-view main event. I said it went too long on Twitter. People got mad at me.
No, it went too long.
It was a 30-minute match
26 minutes.
at the end of a 5-hour show with you kind of pre-show. And the biggest thing, and I know you make the point, Brian, that moves don't matter, and to a point you're right, but except for the buckshot and the boom, literally everything they did in this match we had already seen for hours now. Bunch of super kicks, we've seen a bunch of super kicks. Bunch of moonsaults, seen a bunch of moonsaults. Lots of interference, we've already seen lots of interference. Table spots, we've already seen lots of table spots. So, as good as it was in a vacuum on this show, it could have easily chopped out 10 minutes of the stuff we'd already seen, and it would have been better. The match would have been better, and the show would have been better for it.
Arguable.
It is arguable, but I'm here to give my opinion.
Well, the reason I say it's arguable was because, a few of the matches prior to this did not have a lot of heat. And when this came out, it had heat immediately because the fans decided they wanted to make Adam jokes. As we noted, let's go Adam, they chanted. Let's go Adam sucks. This is Adam.
This is Adam.
Instead of this is awesome. So they're just entertaining themselves because it's like an Adam versus Adam match, and that's how they're like just having fun as they're doing this match. But then by the end, it became let's go Hangman, Adam Cole. And let's go I forget the other one. There's one that was a little bit negative to Adam Cole as well. But anyway, the point is they got the audience in 26 minutes from, just having fun because of the guys' names as opposed to paying attention to the match to actually caring about the match and who won. So, I mean, I'm not going to agree that it could have been shorter than 26 minutes. But, whatever they did, they got the crowd into the match by the end and thinking that it was a great match. And it was a great match.
When Vinny says it's too long, it doesn't mean the match sucked. It just could have been better at, 22 minutes.
Perhaps.
I believe it could have been. It went too long. In fact, I'm not sure why they needed the match before the main event, to be honest with you.
I don't either, because I thought the only reason it was there was because, there was going to be a big debut.
Yeah,
when there wasn't.
No.
When they just did the match and there was nothing except, Sting the Bat fell off a tree.
Yeah.
I was like, why did we need that match?
Honestly, this show would have been better without that match.
I mean, honestly, the reason I think that we had the match was because Matt Hardy was getting pinned, and I would presume that, in the very near future, he's going to get pinned again, and the Hardy family office turns on him, and then Jeff Hardy debuts, and the Hardy Boys reunite, and he turns babyface. So
that makes sense.
I think they wanted this on the show because that is a seed in this garden that is about to sprout. Think about that one.
That's a good idea.
Thank you.
Sting just retweeted a fan's shot of himself jumping off the balcony, and it is exactly as we just. You know what it looks like, actually? Remember when Walter did a top rope splash?
Yeah.
There's a truck falling off a cliff?
Yes.
That's what Sting looks like. And it's from the view it's at, you can't even see where he lands. He just jumps. It looks like he's stage diving. He just disappears. So, anyway, they kicked out of everything. Red Dragon interfered. The Dark Order came out to even the odds, which means they beat up Red Dragon, I believe, 5-on-2. Mm-hmm. And the one thing they did that was creative, not the only thing. The most creative thing they did was Adam Cole always lowers that knee pad when he goes to the boom. And the first time he hit in this match, he was in a hurry. He wanted to capitalize and not give Hangman a chance to recover, so he didn't lower the knee pad, hits the boom, but Cole kicks out. Tries it again later, lowers the knee pad, but this time Hangman collapses. He doesn't have a chance to hit it. The match continues for a while. Here's where the interference goes in. And Page hits the buckshot. Cole breaks his neck like Jericho did in the first match, but still gets the ropes, so the match isn't over. They super kick each other to death for a while, and Hangman gets the better of that, and he's going to finish Cole off, and this time he pulls his knee pad down. He hits Adam Cole's own boom on Adam Cole, follows with the buckshot, and he wins. He is still your triumphant and rightful AEW World Champion.
I was very surprised that the fans were booing when Hangman used the belt to tie Adam Cole to the ropes.
Why does that surprise you? He was cheating.
Well, bro, because I watched Rampage 2 days earlier, and Adam Cole duct taped the guy to the ropes and super kicked him repeatedly in the head. He was getting his revenge for the horrible thing that Adam Cole had done to him 2 days earlier. It was 2 days earlier!
Yes, but your babyface is supposed to be an upstanding citizen that wins without cheating.
Well, if you get tied in the fucking ropes with duct tape, then I don't see it's a problem. You tie the guy to the ropes and give him a couple of fucking super kicks. Well, the fans sure thought this was horrible of this man to do this.
He had considerable heat in this match with the fans in this arena, and it lasted well after the tying up with the belt, too.
Well, he's a champion, everyone.
Yeah.
Hangman Page is your champion.
Good match.
I thought this whole show was,
Hell of a show.
yeah, it didn't need to be as long as it was, but I thought overall, the secret, we've mentioned it every single time we review one of these AEW pay-per-views, the secret to doing a long show is to just do a long show of fucking matches. The WWE's deal where, dude, this show was 3 hours and 45 minutes. If we would have skipped all of the video packages, it would have been 3 hours and 15 minutes.
Yeah,
or longer.
Longer.
The Elimination Chamber was a 3-hour show. We watched it in an hour and 20 minutes. And that was with me watching all of the women's entrances so I could see what they did with Alexa. We could have watched that whole show in an hour and 10 minutes taking out the video packages, which means they had more video packages than wrestling. This, like, you watch a WWE show, and between matches, I could go down and fucking cook a steak, and I'm not going to miss a match. This, I ran down to get fucking popcorn, and I missed the ring entrances for the Moxley-Danielson match. All I did, and it was in a bag. All I had to do was run down and open it up and pour it in and run upstairs. I missed the entrances.
I think it was Mania of last year, but I had noted at one point there had been 5 minutes of wrestling in the last 50 minutes of the show.
Yes,
that's
it
terrible.
was. It was the. Well, yeah, you're right. There was that one year where something happened, like it rained or something.
Yeah.
And so they deliberately
Oh, this was,
stalled.
I don't think it may have been that.
But the one you're talking about is right. It was like between.
It was like the middle of the show.
Yeah, no, it was near the end because we were watching the clock and we're like, dude, this show's gonna be over at like 8, and then there were 45 fucking minutes of shit, and then they finally did the main event and it ended at like, it was horrible.
Remember back in the day, you turn on a WWE pay-per-view at 5 o'clock and it was over by 7:45.
I remember those days
Every
well.
time.
Then I would go home and it was still light out.
Yeah. Next week.
Anyway, that's it. Hey,
Thumbs up for the show.
yeah, if you're a Twitch homie, by the way, or a top-tier YouTube subscriber, or you're listening and you haven't renewed your Twitch subscription, go do it right now, or your YouTube, because Craig and Vinny and I are going to be back on Tuesday. It is the Ode to Rob Bartlett edition of the show.
Yes.
We barely knew you, Rob.
Yep, this is final
It is
Raw.
Raw 13.
Raw 13.
4/19/93.
Yep, the final ever episode with Rob Bartlett. So
Skimming my notes right now. What a show this is going to be.
it was a horrible show. But we're going to have Granny on, and we'll have a Ode to Rob Bartlett poetry contest, as well as a song contest. You can send your MP3 to brian@wrestlingobserver.com. Put song contest in the subject line, 30 seconds or less. It's not an AEW pay-per-view, 30 seconds or less. And we'll play them, we'll read the poems, and it'll be a very special show celebrating the end of the run of Rob Bartlett.
I've already laid out my white dress shirt and black tie and suit coat.
Wow.
That's what Rob wore every Raw.
Yeah, we're going to watch, wear something that Rob would wear, Vinny. Got it?
I'll try.
Just do a Google search, a Google image search.
Yeah,
See what
Let's see what comes up here.
Just search
Rob
Rob Bartlett.
Bartlett. I'll put in Raw. Because we want Rob from that time. He's had a long career. Okay, I can put a turtleneck and sunglasses on.
Sure.
I can handle that.
A turtleneck?
He's got a turtleneck
I'm
on
going
this
to
show.
get a fucking
Sweat
turtleneck.
like a pig up there in that sauna.
I have a suit jacket.
Yeah. All right, well, that's gonna be Tuesday, everybody. So we're going to wrap it up for today. Back later on tonight, got another show with Dave, and then Observer Live tomorrow, Observer Radio tomorrow, Filthy Four Daily tomorrow with Tom. Lots of stuff to talk about, and that's it. We'll talk to you again after a while.
Good night.
Adios.